Have you ever wondered if the world's economic power is shifting? For decades, the West, led by the US and the G7, has dominated the global economy. The US dollar has been king, and institutions like the World Bank and the IMF have set the rules. But what if I told you that a new group of nations is challenging this old order? And I'm talking about BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they're not just talking, they're building an alternative. This isn't just about economics. It's about the birth of a new world order. So what does this mean for you, for the dollar, and for the future of global trade? Let's dive deep into the seismic shifts happening right now. First, let's understand what BRICS is. It started as an acronym coined by an economist in 2001, but it quickly became a formal political and economic alliance. These 5 nations are huge. Together, they represent over 40% of the world's population and a significant chunk of global GDP. What unites them? A shared feeling that the current global system, dominated by Western interests, isn't fair. They believe developing nations need a bigger voice. They're tired of being subject to the political and economic pressures that come with a dollar-dominated world. Think about it. When the US Federal Reserve changes interest rates, it sends shockwaves across the globe. BRICS wants to create a system that's more stable and less dependent on the decisions made in Washington. The West, often represented by the G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, has historically been the engine of the global economy. Their combined economic might, technological advancement, and control over global financial institutions have been unparalleled. The World Bank, the IMF, and the SWIFT payment system are all pillars of this Western-led order. This structure has brought a lot of stability and growth, but critics argue it has also concentrated power and wealth in the hands of a few. When sanctions are imposed, for example, access to the dollar-based system can be used as a powerful political weapon, cutting entire countries off from global trade. This is where the BRICS counter-narrative gets really interesting. They aren't just complaining, they're building alternatives. The most significant move was the creation of the New Development Bank, or NDB, often called the BRICS Bank. Its goal is to fund infrastructure and sustainable development projects in member countries and other emerging economies, without the strings often attached to loans from the IMF or World Bank. The NDB offers financing in local currencies, which is a game changer. It helps countries avoid the risk of their debt ballooning if the US dollar strengthens. This is a direct challenge to the financial dominance of Western institutions. But the biggest and most talked about ambition of the BRICS alliance is de-dollarization. This is the idea of moving away from using the US dollar for international trade. Why is this so important? Right now, most global trade, especially for commodities like oil, is priced and settled in dollars. This gives the United States immense power. BRICS nations are actively exploring ways to trade with each other using their own currencies. For example, India is buying oil from Russia using rupees and rubles. China is pushing for the yuan to be used more in global trade, especially through its Belt and Road Initiative. The idea of a common BRICS currency has also been floated. While creating a shared currency is incredibly complex, the very discussion shows how serious they are about breaking free from the dollar's grip. The expansion of BRICS is another huge development. In 2024, several new countries, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, and Egypt, were invited to join. This is a massive deal. Why? Because these new members are major energy producers. Bringing countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE into the fold means a significant portion of the world's oil and gas reserves are now within the BRICS bloc. This could accelerate the shift away from the petrodollar system, where oil is exclusively traded in US dollars. If these energy giants start accepting other currencies for their oil, it could seriously undermine the dollar's status as the world's primary reserve currency. So what does the West think about all this? Publicly, leaders often downplay the BRICS challenge. They point to the internal divisions within the BRICS group. After all, China and India have their own geopolitical rivalries. Brazil's politics are often turbulent, and Russia is facing heavy international sanctions. They also argue that the dollar's position is secure due to the depth and stability of US financial markets. There's no other currency right now that can offer the same level of trust and liquidity as the dollar. And they have a point. The yuan isn't fully convertible, and the economies of other BRICS nations aren't large or stable enough to support a global reserve currency on their own. However, it would be a mistake to dismiss BRICS. This isn't a battle that will be won overnight. It's a slow, gradual process. Think of it less as a sudden collapse of the Western system and more as the rise of a parallel one. The world might be moving from a unipolar system, dominated by one power, to a multipolar one with several centers of influence. For developing countries, this could be good news. It means more options for financing, more choices for trade partners, and less dependence on a single power bloc. They can choose to work with the World Bank or the NDB, trade in dollars or in local currencies. This competition could lead to better terms and more balanced global development. But what are the risks? A fragmented world could be a more unstable one. If the world splits into competing economic blocs, it could disrupt global supply chains and make it harder to cooperate on shared challenges like climate change or future pandemics. A decline in the dollar's dominance could also have major consequences for the US economy, potentially leading to higher inflation and borrowing costs. For the rest of the world, navigating this new landscape will be tricky. Countries will have to balance their relationships between the established West and the rising BRICS bloc. So, is the birth of a new world economy upon us? All signs point to yes. The tectonic plates of global power are shifting. The BRICS alliance is more than just a symbol. It's a functional and growing force that is actively building the infrastructure for a post-Western world order. While the dollar and Western institutions will remain powerful for the foreseeable future, their undisputed dominance is over. We are entering an era of economic multipolarity. The competition between the G7 and the expanded BRICS will define international relations for decades to come. What we're witnessing is not the end of one system, but the beginning of many. The story of the 21st century economy is still being written, and BRICS is holding a very powerful pen. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think about the rise of BRICS? Is it a positive development for the world, or does it pose new risks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. See you in the next one.